US and Israel. And the Dalai Lama gets a visit from the Hollywood actor Richard Gere as he celebrates his 90th birthday. Good afternoon. The deadly flooding in Texas has worsened overnight, with the death toll there now standing at 51 people. Desperate efforts are continuing today to try to find the dozens who are still missing, including a group of young girls who are at a summer camp nearby. At least 10 inches of heavy rain fell in the area around the Guadalupe River, which is northwest of San Antonio, causing the major river to swell dangerously quickly. The communities of Hunt and Kerrville were hit hardest, as well as Camp Mystic, which is where the missing girls were staying. Time-lapse footage now shows how a river in the region turned into a massive wall of water in ultra-quick time. 70 miles northeast of Kerr County, the area worst affected by the floods, the river was transformed from a dry riverbed into surging rapids inside just 20 minutes. Well, hundreds of rescuers are still searching for people who are missing, including those 27 girls who are attending Camp Mystic, which was ravaged by the floods. The search is also continuing for campers, vacationers and residents from the area who've yet to be located. NBC correspondent Ryan Chandler brought us this update from Kerrville, which is the...
Poor creatures. We've been feeding them second-rate internet through these old telephone wires for decades.
Keep it clear for landing. Rural Britain. Ditch your glitchy old broadband provider. Switch to up to 15 times faster full fiber. GigaClear. Faster broadband for rural Britain.
See the path of destruction behind me. This is not a riverbed behind me. This is a public park that we are standing in about 100 meters away from the Guadalupe River, which exploded just about 50 hours ago now and left so many people missing. It leveled trees, ripped the bark off of them in this park, leaving a debris field that is unlike anything I've ever seen from flooding. I mean, it looks like a tornado ripped through this park, but this is just the sheer destructive power of water that lasted for miles and miles down the Guadalupe River. The search area right now, as of last update from officials, is about 30 miles long from here all the way downriver. Along this river, some popular summer camps where families from all across Texas would send their kids, and the hardest hit one, tragically, is Camp Mystic, which is a Christian all-girls camp. 27 girls are still missing, not including the 15 children that have already been confirmed dead. Of 43 total people killed just along this river, 51 statewide as more rivers overflow. There's a lot of pain, heartbreak, and questions still left to be answered here in Texas. But with every update we get, it's only more bad news as the death toll continues to rise. Search and rescue efforts are still underway. The governor here says that they are treating every missing person as if they are still alive, but the main fear now is, when does the rescue mission turn into recovery efforts?
Ryan, I know it's school summer holidays. They're not quite here yet, hence why kids are at those summer camps. Nevertheless, hundreds of people have been saved, some who are still hanging on for dear life to trees.
You know, we're in the prime time of summer, where thousands of families all across the state send their kids to summer camp. I was talking with parents from Dallas, Houston, Austin, all across the state, who rushed here at the first sign of that tragic news on Friday morning. This is a local tragedy for Kerrville, but it's also impacting families from far away, some who are now trapped here without any answers about where their little girl might be.
The latest there from those floods in Texas. Next, the Education Secretary has told Sky News that the concessions the government made to the welfare bill this week means there is no longer enough money to go round effectively. Bridget Phillipson admitted that the U-turn on welfare has meant the government is facing spending challenges, so potential ambitions like axing the two-child benefit cap may need to be rethought now.
The decision we've taken in the last week has come at a cost, yes, and the fiscal rules that we have matter. They matter in terms of economic stability and providing that strong basis for growth. We are seeing green shoots. Of course, we see record levels of business confidence. We see more jobs being created, and we've seen interest rates come down. So those are all big and important changes. But absolutely, getting growth going is the biggest way that we can make sure that we do seek to break that link that we've seen in the past around tax and spend.
Meanwhile, the former Labour leader, Lord Neil Kinnock, has suggested that Sir Keir Starmer's government should implement a wealth tax on people who have assets above £10 million. Speaking to Sky's Trevor Phillips, Neil Kinnock said the government is giving the appearance that it's bogged down by its own self-imposed limitations.
An imposition of 2% on asset values above 10 million, say, which is a very big fortune, the government would be in a position to collect 10 or 11 billion a year. Now, it's not going to pay all the bills, but it does two things, or that kind of levy does two things. One is to secure resources, which is very important, revenues. But the second thing it does is to say to the country, we are the government of equity.
I spoke to our political correspondent, Rob Powell, a short time ago about this.
I think reading between the lines of what Bridget Phillipson was saying there and putting it together with some of the briefing in the Sunday papers today, what you're sort of getting from the government is smoke signals going towards some of the rebels in the backbenches of the Labour Party, essentially saying, look, you had your welfare U-turn earlier in the week. That cost an awful lot of money that's got to be found from somewhere. So this other thing you want, removal of the two-child benefit cap that limits benefits to the first two children in any family, you can't have that as well. Look, I think there's danger in this approach. You know, it's a bit like 10 minutes before bedtime telling your young child that they can either have TV or they can play a game, but they can't do both. That doesn't always get the best reaction. And I think that almost analogy, feeling like they're being treated like children, is the risk here, right? Like John McDonnell has already been posting online saying that the clowns around Number 10 are briefing out that we've got to take a punishment beating now for the welfare U-turn. That's the problem. You end up inflaming the situation. All that said, it is based in reality. There ain't that much money to go around, even before these U-turns. Now the U-turns have come through, there certainly isn't that much.
And it gives the others opportunity to capitalise on this. I think Reform have already said if they were in a position of power, they would axe the two-child benefit cap. How they pay for it is entirely a different matter, of course. Do you get a sense that the opposition party or parties are capitalising on this?
I think you heard from the Conservatives reacting to Neil Kinnock's idea of a wealth tax. They will try and capitalise on that and wouldn't be surprised if... Woo! Sort of papers hostile to the government tomorrow, because I think whilst something like that would go down well with many backbenchers, would go down well with a section of society that think, frankly, that Labour isn't doing very many Labour-y things at the moment. This whole sort of narrative of why are you going after winter fuel allowance, why are you going after welfare, shouldn't you be going after the rich? It might help then, but also I think the other side, you do risk maybe slippage out to reform. And really the practical problem that if you do try and tax wealth in this way, well, they have big-brain lawyers that know where to put some of these assets. It's difficult to do it. The IFS, the think tank, has warned about that, or people might just leave. And if one of your big aims is also to grow the economy, that's a difficulty as well.
To discuss this now, I'm joined by Paul Johnson, Director of the Institute for Fiscal Studies. Paul, it's good to see you. I know you wrote in the past week that a Chancellor of the Exchequer has three levers they could pull: tax, borrow, cut. What can Rachel Reeves do?
Well, she can't borrow anymore, that's for sure. We're right up against her own fiscal rules, but more importantly, it's very clear from the market reaction this week to the possibility that she might be in trouble. Interest rates went up, and they're already interest rates on our debt are already very high by international standards. There's no space for more borrowing. She's made it very obvious she can't cut. I mean, she's tried to cut welfare spending, and her backbenchers won't let her, and she's done the spending review. So the only room for manoeuvre, if she needs room for manoeuvre, is tax.
The Labour government would say they already inherited the highest tax burden in living memory from the Conservatives because of lots of reasons, because of COVID as much as anything else. But really, is this a hangover from largely the 1980s? Because that's when, roughly, the UK went from a high-tax economy to a low-tax one.
I mean, this decade is remarkable, and actually, you can't tell a difference between the Conservative government and the Labour one. You've just got tax growing at the same rate under both governments. So the last Conservative government raised taxes a lot, and this Labour government is going to do the same. Now, there's all sorts of reasons for that. I mean, part of it's to do with aging population, more money being spent on health, now more money being spent on defence, and in particular, very slow growth. And now it is worth saying that most of that additional tax up till now has come from, or a lot of it has come from companies. We're getting an awful lot from corporation tax. And the last Conservative government really hit high earners remarkably hard in a way that neither party, for obvious reasons, is interested in talking about. But to a degree, you're right. If you look at the UK 40 or 50 years ago, we had a sort of fairly high or average tax and spend by European standards. That came down over a period of time, and it's now starting to go up. But the 2020s are looking very much like a decade of really big tax rises.
Paul, when you compare us to other countries, and I had a sneaky look on the IFS's own website at how we compare, France spends, as a percentage of GDP, roughly 10 points more than we do on taxation. Most of the OECD spends more than the UK does. Does the electorate just need to get real? If we want things, we're going to get taxed for it.
Well, certainly France and a number of other European countries do have higher tax burdens. I'm not sure it's true across the OECD as such, but certainly in Western Europe. Part of the reason for that is they've got much more generous state pensions. And of course, we, on the whole, have to save money into our private pensions. But yes, the electorate in the end has this choice. I mean, are we going to have a much better NHS and a well-funded education system and another 30 billion as the government have promised on defence? Well, if so, then we're going to have to pay more tax. Or are we willing to have less in the way of public services? And one of the continued frustrations of the debate is that people want both, and they can't have both low tax and high spending.
It was the average of the OECD rather than all OECD countries, yeah, I should say. Just to dig into the figures a little bit more, I mean, of course, the Labour manifesto was no hike in VAT, in income tax, in national insurance. They say personal because obviously they levied it on businesses. But those payroll taxes in particular is where the UK is quite a bit lower than others as a percentage of the tax take. Is there wiggle room there to tax companies more at that point?
I think that would be very dangerous at this point. I mean, the companies reacted quite strongly against the increase in national insurance contributions in the last budget. I have to say, I've read the Labour manifesto very carefully, and it very clearly says no increase in national insurance. It doesn't say no increase in personal national insurance. So it looked to me like a manifesto break to start with, but that's by the by. You're right, though, that many other countries, particularly in Europe, do have significantly higher employer contributions. Now, that reflects the point I was just making, that this really goes to much more generous state pension systems. Of course, nearly every employee in the UK is now covered by automatic enrolment into pensions at least. That's another 4% of payroll going into pensions here, and many companies put more than that in. So it's important to be quite clear what you're comparing. But yes, you're right, we do have lower social insurance contributions than many, but I don't think after the backlash against the increase last year that's where the government's going to look again.
This morning, former Labour leader Lord Kinnock is talking about wealth taxes again on those with assets worth more than £10 million. Is that kind of thing a goer? Because we've seen the Labour government change their point of view on things like rules for non-DOMs because they don't necessarily work.
Yeah, I think the challenge with wealth taxes is literally making them work. I mean, I'm not here to defend people with more than £10 million. Wouldn't that be nice? But to make it work, you really have to tax everything. So if anything's worth more than £10 million, you have to put a tax on that, whether that's a house or a farm or a business or a pension or any other kinds of assets. Now, one simple thing we could do, and I think should do with our tax system, is adjust our council tax, which doesn't levy high rates of tax on very, very expensive properties. Doesn't matter whether your home's worth, in 1991 prices, 2 or 3 times the average or 100 times the average. It's the same amount of tax. So we certainly have scope in our system to do something which looks more like a wealth tax on very expensive properties, for example. And you probably could get some money from what Lord Kinnock was suggesting, 2% tax on fortunes over 10 million, but you would, as I say, have to, and you've got the difficulty of how do you value the business that someone owns if it's not publicly quoted? How many farmers are going to get really upset about another tax on them? And if you exempt those sorts of things, then you just immediately create very, very easy ways for people to avoid the tax.
Sounds like a headache, Paul, and we probably have to wait until the autumn for the budget to find out what the answers may be. Appreciate your time, Paul Johnson from the IFS. Thank you. To Gaza now, where at least 38 Palestinian people have been killed in Israeli airstrikes over the past day. Israel's military has confirmed it struck more than 100 targets across the territory. This all comes as Israel sent a delegation to Qatar for talks on a possible Gaza hostage and ceasefire deal, despite Benjamin Netanyahu's office saying that changes requested by Hamas were unacceptable to them. The Iranian Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, has made his first public appearance since the country's 12-day war with Israel and the US. He attended prayers in Tehran ahead of Ashura, which is one of Iran's most important religious ceremonies. It's taken on added significance this year in the wake of the conflict. Our international affairs editor Dominic Waghorn is in the Iranian capital, Tehran, and he sends us this report from there.
They rose to their feet shouting Haydar, a Shiite victory chant, ecstatic as their supreme leader emerged. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's first public appearance since the 12-day war began. His
changes requested by Hamas were unacceptable to them. The Iranian Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, has made his first public appearance since the country's 12-day war with Israel and the US. He attended prayers in Tehran ahead of Ashura, which is one of Iran's most important religious ceremonies. It's taken on added significance this year in the wake of the conflict. Our international affairs editor Dominic Waghorn is in the Iranian capital, Tehran, and he sends us this report from there.
They rose to their feet shouting Haydar, a Shiite victory chant, ecstatic as their supreme leader emerged. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's first public appearance since the 12-day war began. His absence had raised fears about his health. His emergence, despite Israeli death threats, suggests a sense of defiance, which we witnessed among his people too. With ritual flagellation and mournful chants, they march as they have for almost 14 centuries. But this year, the Shiite festival of Ashura has special significance in Iran.
They are remembering the death of a religious leader 1,400 years ago, but his story, one of betrayal and deception in the hands of his enemies, could not be more relevant, they believe, to Iran today.
This ancient ceremony recalls the martyrdom of Imam Hussein in the 7th century, remembered by the devout as if it happened yesterday. The age-old virtue they celebrate, resistance against oppression, resonates powerfully today in the wake of Israel and America's attacks on their country. The age-old virtue they celebrate, resistance against oppression, resonates powerfully today in the wake of Israel and America's attacks on their country. Worshippers were galvanized into defiance against their enemies.
The lesson to be learned from Hussein is not to give in to oppression, even if it's the most powerful force in the world.
What do you think of Donald Trump?
About Trump?
What do you think?
I don't think about Trump. Nobody likes him. He always wants to attack too many countries.
Can Iran make peace with him, though, do you think? Is it possible for peace between Iran?
So, I love peace.
Do not worry.
Even even if it's the most powerful force in the world.
What do you think of Donald Trump?
About Trump?
What do you think?
I don't think about Trump. Nobody likes him. He always wants to attack too many countries.
Can Iran make peace with him, though, do you think? Is it possible for peace between Iran?
So, I love peace.
Do not worry about Donald Trump.
No, we don't worry about it.
Why not?
But?
Why not?
Because we don't want to screw up him. We can do any work that they want. We stay here. This country is for us. Nobody can force us to live here. We can do any work that they want. We stay here. This country is for us. Nobody can force us to live here.
Billboards nearby draw a line between Imam Hussein's story and current events. And remember the dead, numbering almost 1,000, says Iran, many of them women and children. The official message here is also one of defiance, a government spokeswoman warning Israel to not even think about attacking again.
It is natural that we are very strong in defence, and as state officials have announced, this time Israel will receive an even stronger response compared to previous times. We hope that Israel will not make such a mistake.
But is there more for Israel to worry about if Israel attacks Iran again?
Our military forces are totally prepared and our state forces are ready to provide required support. The people are totally united. State officials have announced this time Israel will receive an even stronger response compared to previous times. We hope that Israel will not make such a mistake.
But is there more for Israel to worry about if Israel attacks Iran again?
Our military forces are totally prepared and our state forces are ready to provide required support. The people are totally united.
Death to Israel chants have replaced the sounds of Israeli warplanes in the skies over Tehran. Israeli hopes their attacks would push Iranians into toppling their government have proven unfounded. For many Iranians, it seems quite the opposite. The 12-day war has brought them closer together. Dominic Waghorn, Sky News, Tehran.
Next, 9 in 10 homeless women are being left out of official government figures, according to charities who say gender-biased data collection methods are to blame. Women are less likely to visibly bed down on streets due to the threat of gender-based violence. Amelia Harper has been taking a look at the issue.
See, kind of along there would be kind of a good place to look because it's kind of in the corners of the park.
Ava is looking for women without anywhere to sleep, alongside her colleague Elise.
It does look like someone has been staying there.
And this is what they find. Home in name only.
This is typically where you would find women, maybe more in the day, maybe in the night as well. It's somewhere quite secluded, still tucked away in the corner, but also you're still in public, so if something happened and you felt like your safety was at risk, you could still make some noise. If anything does happen, it's like documented somewhere.
Also searched a busy train station, another location for female rough sleepers.
There's also a lot of fast food places, a lot of coffee shops, so it's kind of easy to just sit down with a coffee for a few hours and hopefully not be moved on. And you're also around a lot of other people feeling quite safe.
But many of the women they find aren't ever officially recorded. Charities say that local authorities are finding many more female rough sleepers than the government.
There are more than 10 times the amount of women rough sleeping in England as existing government data suggests. What we know about women is they are constantly exposed to the risk of violence and abuse when they have nowhere safe to stay. So women will choose much more hidden locations, maybe sitting all night in A&E waiting rooms, hiding in public toilets, travelling around on 24-hour transport.
And this was what life was like for Nadia, who grew up in care and found herself homeless at 21.
I got kicked. I'd sleep in car parks, in blocks of flats, in bin sheds. Yeah, I can make home out of a cardboard box if I need to. You get asked all the time about business, yeah, perverts, police. I got woke up one time by the police and I had a warrant, so I ended up in jail. Yeah, it's horrible. It is horrible.
A Ministry of Housing spokesperson said, "We know women can be particularly affected, including those hiding from harm." They say they're taking urgent and decisive action, providing $1 billion for crucial services this year and taking steps to improve our data to understand where support is most needed.
I would say like around this bit is quite a big hotspot.
Yeah.
Rising numbers of women are using places like these to shelter. A crisis, it appears, hidden in plain sight. Amelia Harper, Sky News.
You're watching Sky News Today. Coming up, the Dalai Lama marks his 90th birthday with the help of Hollywood star Richard Gere.